Exercise 11. The news.
This is the 6 o'clock news for Thursday, and first the headlines are: a powerful earthquake rocked the U.S. Northwest on Wednesday. Frightened people ran into the streets of Seattle. Earthquake officials said British Columbia felt the shock but escaped any serious damage. Transport workers are on strike in Vancouver over a pay claim, and the strike looks set to spread to all of BC. In Moscow, Russian officials gave the green light on Wednesday to California millionaire Dennis Tito to become the first tourist in space.
Now here's the news in detail. A strong earthquake hit Seattle at 10:54 a.m. on Wednesday. According to the National Earthquake Information Center in Golden, the magnitude 6.8 quake was centered 125 kilometers southeast of Victoria and 56 kilometers southwest of Seattle. About 250 people were reported injured in Seattle and Olympia. At least 3 of them are in serious condition. In Victoria, the earthquake caused buildings to sway and shook pictures off walls, but damage was minimal. Said Kay Smith, who was on the 8th floor of a downtown Victoria office building. "I thought the building was going to sway and topple over. Yet others didn't feel a thing." A spokesman said that at least 2 local people had hospital treatment for minor injuries.
Russian officials gave the green light to California millionaire Dennis Tito to become the first tourist in space, despite reservations from NASA. Tito, 60, the founder of an investment firm, took his final exam. The Interdepartmental Committee, which routinely approves cosmonauts for spaceflight, included Tito in the primary crew set to launch on April 28th on a mission to the International Space Station. Tito will reportedly pay $20 million for the flight. He will spend about a week on the station, despite objections from NASA, who felt that an amateur on board could jeopardize safety if there were an emergency.
Exercise 12. Some interesting places to go.
Here are some interesting places to visit. First, the West End. The West End is the name given to the area of central London. It includes Trafalgar Square, the main shopping areas of Oxford Street and Regent Street. Most of London's big department stores are in these streets, and the entertainment centers are in Soho, Piccadilly Circus, and Leicester Square. Trafalgar Square was built early in the last century to commemorate the Battle of Trafalgar. Admiral Lord Nelson's statue stands on top of a column in the middle of Trafalgar Square. At Christmas time, carol singers gather round a huge Christmas tree, which is sent to Britain from Norway every year. Behind Nelson's column is the National Gallery. Piccadilly Circus is the center of nightlife in the West End. It is usually at the top of everyone's list of things to see in London because it is so well known. It is actually quite small, and most people are rather disappointed when they see it for the first time because they had imagined it would be much bigger. To the north of Piccadilly Circus is Soho, which has been the foreign quarter of London since the 17th century. Now it has restaurants offering food from a variety of different countries, especially Chinese and Italian ones. London is famous for its live theaters, and there are over 30 theaters within a square mile. If you want to know what is on in London, the best place to look is in a newspaper. Exercise 13. Trip to Belfast.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Belfast. Now I will give you some information about Belfast. Belfast is one of the youngest capital cities in the world, and it has grown incredibly fast. Today, the city has a population of 400,000, nearly a third of the entire population of Northern Ireland. But in the 17th century, it was only a village. Then, during the 19th century, the development of industries like linen, rope making, engineering, tobacco, and the sea trade doubled the town's size every 10 years. The city is well known for shipbuilding. It was here that the Titanic was built and sent out on her fatal maiden voyage. Here is your brief tour around Belfast. This morning, you will visit an art gallery, Belfast Cathedral, and City Hall. This afternoon, you will visit the zoo, and this evening, you will go to a concert at Ulster Hall. Tomorrow morning, you will visit Ulster Museum and see 9,000 years of human history in Ireland and the gold treasure of the 16th century Spanish warship which was recovered off the coast of Antrim in 1968. In the afternoon, you will go to the Botanic Gardens and you will walk among rare plants. Some of the tropical plants are 100 years old. And then you will visit the Palm House. It was built in 1850. You will have a free evening, so you can go to some local pubs. It's possible for you to find a really friendly atmosphere and enjoy some Irish folk music there. Next morning at 10, you will leave the hotel and fly back to London. I hope you will enjoy the 2-day tour. Thanks.
Exercise 14. TV and radio. Watching television is one of the great British pastimes. broadcasting in the United Kingdom is controlled by the British Broadcasting Corporation, known as the BBC, and the Independent Broadcasting Authority, known as IBA. The BBC receives its income from the government. The IBA earns money from private companies advertising. National radio is controlled by the BBC, and listeners can choose between 4 stations. Radio 1 is a pop music station with news and magazine-style programs. Radio 2 plays light music and reports on sport. Radio 3 plays classical music, and Radio 4 has news programs, drama, and general interest programs. There are many local stations, some private and some run by the BBC. Their programs consist mainly of music and local news. The BBC has 2 TV channels. BBC Two has more serious programs and news features. The IBA is responsible for looking after the regional independent TV companies who broadcast their own programs and those they have bought from other regions. There is a break in programs for advertisements about every 15 to 20 minutes. The most recent independent channel is Channel 4, and it has more specialized programs than the main channels. In general, people think the programs offered on British television are of a very high standard. Some people, however, are becoming worried about the amount of violence on TV and the effect this may have on young people. Exercise 3. Lobsters.
Good morning, everyone. Today I will talk about lobsters. Many of our listeners wrote to me to ask if lobsters really scream when they are boiled, and why they turn red when they are cooked. These are very good questions. Well, let me ask you a question. If you were sitting in a vat of boiling water, wouldn't you scream and turn red too? But in the lobster's case, there is no scream, and there is a chemical reason for the change in color. Noises are produced as a lobster is boiled alive, but the sounds are not voices. As the lobster's body heats up in the shell, pockets of air in the cavities and joints expand. If enough pressure builds inside the body, the air will make whistle-like sounds as it escapes through small openings in the shell. As for the color shift, a lobster's shell contains red pigment molecules that combine with a protein to create the camouflaging colors of the lobster. Live lobsters are usually blue-green or brown with flecks of yellow. When the lobster is boiled, the protein is denatured or deformed by the heat. The pigment remains, however, turning the shell red.